And the one thing that we don't need that they're doing in the name of catching all those potential terrorists is we do not need and should not accept a national ID card. The early 70s. We have spent hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars on this particular war, but it's been war on American citizens more than it's been a war to change these conditions. And that is the war on drugs, which has been a complete, total failure. Led us to a condition where the states pass laws that say that if you happen to be ill, you are sick, you're getting chemotherapy, you have AIDS, and you get benefit by smoking marijuana, and the law permits you to do it, which should be permissible in a republic. No, the federal government actually arrests sick people in the name of compassionate conservatism and putting people in prison. But some say, well, it's dangerous. You might do other things, and it's a danger to you and what you do with your own body. Well, you know, I made a comment once in a speech on the House floor. I said, yes, some of the strongest drug warriors in Washington, D.C. rant and rave about the possibility of a sick person using marijuana for their illness at the same time. But guess what? They have no hesitation to imbibe in that drug called alcohol, a more dangerous drug. Foolish things. Not only it's a violation of freedom of choice and taking your own risk, it violates the concept of states' rights and state legislation, but it also has done something rather weird in many ways. This whole idea, and it's only recent, it's in the lifetime of many of us here. It was the first federal law against the use of marijuana occurred in 1937, I believe. 1937. Before that, people did use that. States had right to regulate, but it's a recent onset. But during the war, it was important that a related plant to marijuana called hemp was used. They were encouraged to grow it. It was useful in the war effort. You can make clothes and medical problems and food products out of hemp. But we are obsessed and confused. And what does the federal government do? If you go out and plant hemp plants, you're going to go to jail. What's going on? And they'll tell you, oh no, it's a drug. Somebody might smoke it. But you know what? To get high on a hemp cigarette, the cigarette has to be big as a telephone pole. And the last thing I ever want to leave anybody with is that I think drugs are safe. I think drugs are very dangerous. I think illegal drugs, the ones that are currently illegal, are very, very dangerous, and we should be very cautious about it. But I also, as a physician, recognize of the great danger of prescription drugs. For all our school kids. And when they run these pilot programs, they find that 10% of our students really need help is rather fascinating, not only in the idea of personal choices and states' rights, but also the stupid complications that come from it. So what do? We talk about our energy problems, and we do because the government's too much involved. They subsidize one form of energy and they prohibit the other form of energy. They put roadblocks in front of nuclear energy and then they go and subsidize raising corn to make ethanol, which doesn't make any economic sense. Now, the Brazilians know how to make ethanol from sugarcane, and they can actually sell us ethanol made in Brazil cheaper than we can make it from corn in this country. So what happens? We put a tariff on it to punish you so you have to pay more for it. But there is a better source of ethanol, and it happens to be hemp. They knew how important freedom of choice is and how valuable the marketplace is. Government bureaucrats and politicians are incapable of making correct economic decisions. They're capable of only making mistakes. This whole notion that the federal government has to tell us, what we can eat and drink and smoke leads to some other silly things. Because today, can you believe this? Can you believe that the federal government has regulations on the delivery of raw milk? Now that is real dangerous, giving you that much freedom that you can make up your own mind about whether or not you can drink whole milk. But there are restrictions and restraints, and it just goes on and on. And it comes from the concession that we need a little bit of government or a little bit of welfare. I've heard so many times over the years that, yes, I'm opposed to this welfare system and I'm opposed to this unless you need it. Right. But if you concede it and say, well, there's only a few people that need it and there has to be a safety net. The problem with that argument is you assume it's going to be a small percentage of people that are going to get the help, but you've conceded 100% of the principle.